Imagine a world where humans and robots once fought a massive war. At first, humans were losing, but they turned the tide by using robots against robots. The war ended, but at a cost. Robots were exiled to a separate zone, while humans, ironically, became more robotic than ever, relying on machines for everything. Now, meet Michelle, a girl who despises all robots. One day, she discovers a shocking truth. Her brother Chris, whom she thought had died long ago, is actually still alive. Not just that, but he was a key figure in the war and is now enslaved. Determined to find and free him, Michelle embarks on a wild journey. But will she succeed? That's what we're about to find out, my friend, so let's dive into this strange world. A Genius in the Making, 1990. Our story begins in 1990 with a boy named Chris who is taking a mind-bending college entrance exam, so hard that even Einstein would struggle. Yet, Chris solves it effortlessly, leaving his professor in awe. After the exam, he meets his sister Michelle, who is overjoyed that he might get into university and fulfill their parents' dream. But Chris, he's not sure if that's what he really wants. As they walk, Michelle accidentally bumps into a military officer who starts a heated argument with Chris, belittling him for being a mere civilian while soldiers are out fighting. This leaves us wondering, what war is he even talking about in 1990? Hold that thought. The war between humans and machines. To understand what's happening, let's rewind. Once upon a time, robots, led by a machine named Mr. Bent, rebelled against humanity. The war was brutal because, well, robots don't bleed. Victory seemed impossible until a genius businessman named Eisen changed everything. Eisen invented a game-changing weapon, the Neurocaster helmet. When humans wore it, they could control powerful robotic war machines with their minds, making them an unstoppable force. Thanks to Eisen's invention, humans finally defeated the robots. Mr. Bent was forced to sign a peace treaty, and all robots were banished to the exclusion zone, never to live alongside humans again. Jump to 1994, a broken world. Years after the war, the world is still a mess. Even though humans won, they became overly dependent on robots. They barely do anything themselves, letting machines handle everything. Michelle now lives with a man named Ted, but he's not her real father, just her adoptive guardian. He, like most people, wears the Neurocaster helmet all day, interacting with her only through a controlled robot. Michelle hates this. She despises all robots and prefers human interaction. At school, every student wears helmets to learn through virtual lessons, but Michelle refuses. This lands her in trouble with the principal, who reminds her that her entire family, her parents and brother, died in an accident. Michelle, haunted by memories of that tragic event, struggles to sleep, constantly dreaming about her lost brother, Chris. A mysterious robot appears. One night, Michelle hears a strange noise outside. She steps out and, bam, standing before her is a robot. But not just any robot, it's a replica of Kid Cosmo, her favorite childhood cartoon hero. Terrified, she hides, but the robot talks to her. It reveals that Chris built it and uploaded his own consciousness into it. The real Chris is still alive, and the robot has come to take Michelle to him. Shocked but intrigued, Michelle listens, until Ted shows up, freaks out, and calls the police. With no choice, Michelle tases Ted, grabs Kid Cosmo, and escapes in a stolen car. The road to the exclusion zone. Michelle and Kid Cosmo need to find Dr. Clark, a man who can help locate Chris. The problem? He's in the exclusion zone, a robot-controlled wasteland. They need a way in. Enter Kitz, a black market dealer who smuggles illegal robotic parts. Michelle and Kid Cosmo sneak into his truck as he unknowingly heads into the exclusion zone. But soon, Kitz discovers them, and he's not happy. Before he can decide what to do, the group gets ambushed by a terrifying figure, the Butcher. Enter the Butcher. The Butcher isn't just any soldier, he's a legendary war hero who slaughtered countless robots. Now, he hunts criminals and rogue machines like Kid Cosmo. After an intense battle, Michelle, Kid Cosmo, and Kits barely escape, while the Butcher is left fuming, plotting his next move. The Hidden Robot City. Our heroes finally reach the robot refugee city, where they meet none other than Mr. Bent, the former leader of the robot uprising. Michelle pleads for help, but Mr. Bent refuses. Humans are forbidden here. If the company Center Corp, owned by Eisen, finds out, they'll destroy the entire city. He gives them one night to rest, then they must leave or face the desert alone. Feeling hopeless, Michelle reminisces about her childhood, watching Kid Cosmo with Chris, dreaming of adventure. After a long journey, Kit the robot finally catches a break and watches an old cartoon featuring Kit Cosmo. Michelle, along with all the other robots around, sits down, completely captivated by the show. Even Mr. Bent, who usually keeps his cool, gets emotional. Inspired, he decides to help Michelle. He approaches Michelle in case, revealing that he knows where to take her, to Dr. Clark. Michelle is beyond grateful. The next day, the crew sets off. Michelle, Case, Kit, Herm, Mr. Bent, and a few other robots. It doesn't take long before they reach Dr. Clark's house. The moment Clark sees Michelle, he realizes it's time to reveal the truth. Now, here's where things get wild. Clark explains that after the accident involving Michelle's family, they found Chris's body. But, plot twist, he wasn't dead, he was in a coma. At the time, Clark worked for the sinister Center Corporation, which ordered him to run tests on Chris. And guess what? They discovered Chris's brain held an insane amount of energy, enough to power the entire fleet of autonomous war machines. That's right. Chris was the secret behind Center's military success. Clark, disgusted by what was happening, eventually took a stand. He stole a robot named PC, loaded it with all the research and recordings of Chris's suffering, and escaped. Before leaving, he connected Chris's consciousness to the Kit Cosmo robot, hoping it would eventually lead Michelle to the truth, just like it did. But now, Clark is racked with guilt. He regrets everything. He wants to stop it all. Here's the catch. When Chris's consciousness left Center Corporation, it created instability in their machines. That's why Ethan, the ruthless head of Center, is after Kit Cosmo. He needs Chris's mind back to restore control. As Michelle processes this bombshell, the moment is cut short. The Butcher arrives, a terrifying enforcer, and he's not alone. A small army of war machines, controlled by Center's soldiers, march toward them. Clark tells Michelle to run. He stands his ground, knowing that the Butcher, bound by protocol, cannot kill a human with his exosuit. But then, the unexpected happens. Ethan remotely controls another exosuit and mercilessly kills Clark. Even the Butcher seems shaken by this blatant disregard for the rules. Furious, he refuses to capture Michelle and her friends, letting them escape instead. Back at their safe haven, disaster strikes. Center's forces have attacked and destroyed everything. Mr. Bent is devastated. He had surrendered and made peace with humans long ago, only to be betrayed. And worst of all, Center's troops have captured Kit. Meanwhile, the Butcher confronts Ethan, watching in disgust as he straps Kit into a machine alongside comatose Chris, attempting to reconnect them. The Butcher, seeing a child being used like this, decides he's had enough. He's done working for a monster. Michelle, knowing there's no time to lose, rallies the robots and convinces them to launch a full-scale attack on Center Corporation. They march forward, and the battle that follows is nothing short of legendary. Ethan, of course, has one last trick up his sleeve. He dons a massive, custom-made war suit and personally joins the fight. He clashes with Herm in an earth-shaking duel, but in the end, Ethan proves too strong. He destroys Herm, leaving Kit's heartbroken. Inside the facility, Michelle fights her way to Chris. She finds him strapped into the machine, barely alive. She connects to his consciousness in a virtual world where Chris tells her the brutal truth. He can never wake up. His mind is being used solely to power the war machines. The only way to stop Center is to shut down the system, which means letting him go. Michelle refuses at first, but Chris insists. It's the only way. With a heavy heart, she shuts down the machine. The moment she does, all of Center's war machines collapse. The battle is over. The robots have won. The Butcher, now fully against Ethan, helps Mr. Bent locate him. They corner Ethan, who has no choice but to surrender. He's arrested, facing charges of kidnapping Chris and using him as a power source. Justice is finally served. As for Kit, he's still mourning Herm, until a surprise twist. Herm isn't completely gone. A small, backup version of his consciousness survived, stored in a tiny robot. Kit is overwhelmed with joy, realizing he hasn't lost his best friend after all. Sometime later, peace has been restored. Michelle and Case settle in a quiet, peaceful place. But before fully moving on, Michelle releases a video to the world, exposing Center Corporation. Using the data from PC, she reveals all their lies and crimes, urging humanity to start fresh, to live in peace with robots instead of fearing them. Her final message? It's time to abandon the machines that disconnect people from reality, the same technology that let Ethan control everything. And with that, the movie ends. Hope you all enjoyed it. See you in the next one.